Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and the new edition of our online interview series. Today, we want to talk to Tarachi Gold, and Cameron Tymstra, the CEO, is here with us. Good morning to Canada. How are you, Cameron?
I'm well, Jochen. How are you?
Perfect. Thanks. All fine. Yeah, I'm really happy because I'm a shareholder of your company. And I must say, I really like the numbers of your PEA, positive results on the Magistral PEA and the mineral resource estimate. So let's talk about that. What does it look like, the PEA?
It looks fantastic. We're really excited with the results and how they turned out. We just released those on Monday this week. Ausenco worked really hard on putting this together for us. And we were frustrated with a few months worth of delays, particularly in the lab, where we had to wait a really long time to get our assays back and to get our metallurgical test work back as well. But once we received all of that in October, Ausenco was finally able to get the data that they needed to be able to push this PEA forward and finally release the results this week.
Yeah, super. So let's go on to the results a bit here, because I saw your AISC of $705 per ounce gold, net of copper and silver byproducts, and the pre-tax IRR of 120%.
Yeah, there are not too many mining projects, especially not in the gold sector with rates of return that are that high, which of course is getting us very excited. And that's because we have a very low capital requirement to actually bring Magistral into production. We're estimating that's going to be about $11.1 million US, so very small for a mining project. And given those all-in sustaining costs of about $705 net of the copper and silver byproduct credits, we're anticipating some pretty healthy margins as well.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you want to finance those $11 million?
Well, that's what we'll be working on in the new year, is putting together a financing package to develop Magistral. We want to put something together that will sort of minimize dilution as much as possible, probably some combination of some equity, but we're also looking at the potential to do some sort of small debt deal associated with the development, or a prepayment agreement with one of the offtake partners who will ultimately be buying either our gold doré or our copper concentrate.
Okay, super. One might think 3.4 years mine life is a little bit short, but I mean, we are talking about a tailings facility, right? So what do you want to do to enhance mine life to make this longer? Because I could imagine once you have built your process facility and the SART plant, it would make sense, to really do more with that, not only 3.5 years, right?
Of course, we're going to be looking at, securing some potential other resource materials in the area. There's certainly other tailings materials in that part of Durango as well. Some of them are actually pretty close by to our existing project. So we'll be looking at potentially making some acquisitions or some agreements to be able to process that material in the future, potentially extend out that life of mine. But what we wanted to do with this PEA is really make sure that the project that we own today in its current form is, very financially attractive and economic just in itself. Since that's the only thing that we have guaranteed access to. Certainly there's never any guarantees that we could acquire other materials in the future, but there are materials out there in terms of tailings and potentially other hard rock resources as well that could potentially come to Magistral in the future and extend out that life of mine.
Super. So if I calculate your pre-tax annual free cash flow of approximately $15 million US, so we talk about something like, let's round it, $15 million US. That is quite beautiful, I would say. Of course, you have to pay some taxes and stuff. So what do you gonna do with the money? And also, I think you are cleaning up the environment with that action you are taking there.
That's right. I mean, our vision for the development of Magistral has always been to generate free cash flow for Tarachi Gold so that we can use that cash flow to self-fund exploration operations and projects within Mexico. For example, in Sonora, we have a very attractive package of mining concessions up there, or potentially to acquire and go after other projects in Mexico as well. Certainly being able to keep that cash and those expenditures within Mexico will also help us reduce ultimately how much cash we have, or how much taxes we have to pay on those profits from Magistral as well. And like you mentioned, it's not only a good cash flow project for us, but it's also great for the local community. The tailings that we're going to be mining and reprocessing are not contained in a storage facility. They're just dumped on the land. They contain mercury, they contain copper and other metals. Those things can easily leach into the local soils and erode into the surface water resources as well. So we're very much rehabilitating the land as we go. There's very few mining projects out there that actually result in a net benefit to the environment. So that's another positive and thing that we really like about Magistral.
Could you imagine to process also, let's say, neighbored tailings, if there are any? Because I could imagine you are in a nice and beautiful mining area, that there might be some other old tailings where now then the owners might say, oh, there is a chance to do something here.
Of course, there's some tailings just a few kilometers to the west of our mill. We've actually looked at the data that the owners have of that in terms of the grade and whatnot, and there's definitely some good-looking material over there that could potentially come to Magistral with very similar chemistry. About 20 kilometers to the south, there's another large tailings deposit as well. We have spoken to the owner of that. It has very high-grade gold and very high-grade silver. There's some chemistry issues there in terms of some of that being refractory, so the processing might be a little different. So it would take a lot of work for us to determine, ultimately if we can profitably reprocess that at Magistral, but that's one of the projects that we're going to be pursuing in the future as well.
So you have already, let's say, for the longer term future, some good outlook, I would say.
I think so as well. Yeah.
Okay, super. One thing, table 7 catched my interest in your press release, because you are mentioning here the fee rate per ton at $1,600 gold. Of course, what Tarachi owns, you have not to pay, but then you have Minera Rio Tinto lease with $1.40, for example, and the Ejido Magistral lease with 763,000 tons, and there you have to pay $6.50 per ton. So what does that mean? Can you explain that a bit? Why do you have such different fee costs?
So these agreements are old agreements that were existing sort of prior to our involvement in the project. So we acquired these sort of as part of the purchase agreement for Magistral earlier this year. So those are sort of legacy agreements that date back a number of years. The Ejido Magistral is the local community that owns the land and on top of which we're going to be working. So those payments will basically be distributed to the local community members. So it's another very big benefit for the local community. And those costs associated with paying those fees per ton is actually already included in our all-in sustaining costs of $705 an ounce. So even with the fact that we have to pay some leasing fees on some of the material we'll be mining, we're still going to be producing for pretty low cost overall.
Absolutely. I mean, even if that would go to 800, it's still a wonderful margin. At gold 1800 just some seconds ago, I saw it. We are back to the 1800. That is great. Yeah, fine. So let's assume the $11 million you have, let's say, the financing package in the first quarter next year. What would be the timeline? When will we see you to pour the first array bar?
So the sort of development timeline put forward in the PEA is about 12 months. So once we get the project financed and we can start pushing ahead at full steam, we expect about 12 months timeline to actually get to producing status. Once we're producing, we'll still need a couple of months to actually ramp up to full production. But I would anticipate, if all things go well and we can finance that in a reasonable time period in the new year, within the first quarter of next year, we should be able to start turning things on at Magistral.
Super. So that would mean 2023 summer commercial production.
I would think so. Yeah. That's
Super.
What we're targeting.
Well, that's perfect. That's exactly how we like it. Super. Once you are receiving the cash, will you then start also to do, let's say, own exploration? Could you imagine to buy other projects? What's the thinking here?
Well, for the last 6 months or so, we've been looking for another asset to acquire for Tarachi Gold. We have, in terms of the development pipeline, we have Magistral sort of at the final end, close to production. We have our Tarachi exploration concessions in Sonora, which are a little more early stage exploration. So what we've been looking for the last 6 months is a project that's more in the middle of the development pipeline, perhaps something that has a history of large scale commercial production, or something that has a historic or updated mineral resource existing in the ground that looks like it's open to expansion, and we can use some of the future cash flows expected to come from Magistral to fund that expansion and resource growth, and sort of creating wealth through discovery that way, pushing those assets sort of towards eventual production as well. So we're continuing to look for assets right now. Our Vice President of Exploration, Lauren Warner, has been doing a lot of digging and looking at a lot of data that on some of the assets that we're taking a look at. Ideally, we'll find something that's within Mexico. Just for tax purposes, it certainly makes it a lot easier for us to spend our Magistral profits within the country. But also we already have teams in place there as well in terms of geology teams. But we have looked at a few things in the southern US and elsewhere in Latin America. But certainly one of our goals for 2022 is to settle on another asset to bring into Tarachi Gold.
Super, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Cameron. It was a great update. And yeah, it looks like that things are now really going, as you said, full steam next year. I like it.
We're certainly looking forward to the new year, Jochen.
Perfect. Me too. Cameron, thank you very much. Merry Christmas, all the best, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Cameron Tymstra, the CEO of Tarachi Gold, and you heard it. Great PEA, great numbers, and things are really moving. $11 million, including the contingency, is the financing what they need to really bring Magistral online and, yeah, really to start mining. So I think this is absolutely doable. And, yeah, we want to hope for 2023 when the company is in commercial production. Thanks for watching us. Check out Tarachi Gold. Bye-bye from Switzerland.